Oh wait, before we go over how the distorted reverberation ensemble went, we need to talk about what happened in the light involving Angela. You're probably asking, where was I during this? Well, I had my own problems. She had hers. Yeah, that's right. Angela was fighting herself, wielding the EGO of the bloodbath. All by herself. Thankfully, she had something to wield against herself. She'd need it. The red-eyed Angela. She wasn't happy with the Angela I knew. Wanting to carry out the plan as intended. So she's taking her on to fight for the light. Yeah, the odds ain't good anyway. Or aren't they? Yeah, just as the Red Mist herself couldn't write a legible letter. I can't speak right sometimes. Oh yeah, and about Angela fighting herself by herself. It wasn't looking good. Especially as the version of herself wielding wrist cutter had the advantage. She was also on the offensive. Oh yeah. The Pale Hands staggers those that, well, get hit by all the attacks, and thankfully, the rest of my team appears to back her up. She'd need all the help she could get to beat herself down. And yeah, I know how crazy that sounded. Well, it would if it was taken out of context. But you know what I mean. And if the pattern continued, well, then it'll be necessary to fight this Angela, the one with the red eyes. With all of the EGO of the abnormalities that I and my team fought against. Along with something new. Although I can't... Yeah, I couldn't imagine what needs to be fought against. Right. Let's review what I know about this. Yeah, it was clear again to me. The bloodbath was made by one of the founders of Elkhorn. When she just couldn't take it anymore, I decided to end her life. It then turned into some kind of abnormality and, well, it started killing people. Oh yeah. And at times, the wrist cutter brought something that not many would want, would they? And that was depression. Which made it easier to incapacitate the one that had it. Well, things were certainly looking up. As some actual damage was being caused. And then it got bad again. Oh yeah, and as for what was needed. What was needed was a miracle. The reason for that too many was needed to break through the counterattacks. Which caused two of the General Works team to be incapacitated. I don't know why I think that's an issue. I mean, I'd probably do not that much better. Angela and the General Works team did the best with what they had, but would it be enough to avoid getting staggered? Well, with Frost's case, no it didn't. And neither was it the case for Angela. Well, thankfully, Tina, she had the power of EQ. Specifically, the power of fire. Courtesy of Xiao, the former director of Section 1 of the Liu Association. And believe me, there will be a lot of fire. Yeah, it's kinda her thing. And the thing of whoever was wielding that at the time. Yeah, there was a question of who got what. Yeah, Tina could use the extra protection. As for Pinocchio, well, he could use the extra opportunity to cause damage. Which didn't work out so. Especially as Angela wielding the wrist cutter. Let's just see that Tina was not gonna like what was gonna happen. As for what was going to happen with Frost, well, it'd be no good to tell her to chill, as, well, that's kind of what she did. Although Reinhardt well, none of the others, it went well for her. Although thankfully by this point, the red-eyed Angela she was staggered. And those that could, well, they'd need to go all out if they were to have any chance of beating her. Yeah, and with what they had at hand, they decided to go all out. As if this was the last thing they could do. As for how that went, Well, that went further than expected. Then again, Angela had overall low expectations until this point, so Angela decided to shake up the setup for what was to come. Yeah, it's as Nezhak would put it. Those that wanted to die, truly wanted to die, would do so quietly rather than just scream out loud that they wanted to. Anyway, it was a little different this time around. As Aspiration, that was the EGO that the red-eyed Angela was wielding. She had a lot of counterattacks that blocked heavily, so it wasn't a good idea to attack her directly, at least at this point. As for the lungs, it was a little different this time around, as there was 4 of them for Angela to deal with. One of them provided hankering if it was still alive. One of them provided hankering if an ally was killed. One of them provided hankering for each hit it dealt. And the 4th one that was strengthened by that's both with attack and offense and defense. Basically, that one got boost to both, proportionate to half of the amount of hankering on Aspiration. That one needed to go first, as that one could cause a serious amount of damage. Much like Pinocchio is causing some damage with counterattacks. Yeah, the others needed to protect Angela, as if she was down, it'd all be over. Yeah. As you gather, it requires a more, how can I put it, berserker kind of approach. Yeah, endurance, not something that was a priority in this battle. Largely because time was not the friend of Angela and the General Works team. Because it would only be a matter of time before red-eyed Angela would be aggressive. Yeah. Hard to know who was full of lies, or rather, more full of lies. But one thing that was clear was the raging storm would be needed to clear away the biggest threat that was currently there by this point in the battle. Now this needed to be dealt with very carefully. The reason for that was, if poorly timed, it could make things worse. At times, this would be considered a gamble. To rely on something that attacks its... well, on that scale, but... they were gonna die anyway. So, why not? Oh yeah, and Angela needed to use a number of EGO pages in order to will something else later. So far, she had the EGU of the fourth match fleeing and the Forsaken Prisoner. There would likely be others somewhere down the line. Yeah. Well, I can tell you this much about the Purple Tear. She might be a manipulative, but she certainly had something useful in her that could be used at just the right time. Yeah, she could see things coming. Which made me ask, why did she so willingly come in here, even though she knew that under normal circumstances it'd be a battle that we'd have no chance of winning. Much as that attack would have any of them would be an attack that they'd have no chance of blocking. Not with that amount of strength used. Oh yeah, and there was well, Frost was out of the battle, but thankfully, she helped out. Hopefully enough to see everyone through until the end. All Tana needed to do was last long enough to be able to wield the power of EGU. Something strong enough to turn lungs into ashes. There was also the question of what to use against. Each target. Yeah, she could copy the counter attack, but that wouldn't really work out, would it? Yeah, going defensive, while not always the best solution, sometimes it could help, at least with not getting hit in a way that would hurt anyone. Oh yeah, and Tina could now burn the enemy. It'd be debatable whether or not it'd be enough to make a difference in this battle, but Angela was clearly out of options, as she knew that she had to join in with the Fire Fest, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yeah, all Reinhard had to wield was mostly defensive capabilities. Pinocchio, not that much different. Yeah, some parrots can be so cruel. And it was looking like Pinocchio was focusing a lot of his attention on the one that got stronger with the amount of hankering. No, that was a wise decision, as that was someone you did not want to ignore. Not unless he had a death wish. Well, if the physical blows didn't kill him, the fire would. Yeah, the fervent beats, not just with the surviving lungs. It was also with Pinocchio, who wouldn't have much time left. Then again, neither did the others. They needed to take care of the lungs before the heart of aspiration took care of them. As for how I do against this one, she'd be pounding me on the floor. No, bad way of putting it. More like pummeling me on the floor. I mean, even if this wasn't the real Angela, she'd be real enough to cause some serious damage to me. The priority of the General Works team was to take care of the lungs. And it was a good thing they did too, is that incapacitated the red-eyed Angela. And so they did what they did with the last phase of this battle, involving the risk cover EQ. They went all out, which was even more relevant to Pinocchio, as he didn't have much time left. He'd be going the way of Frost if he didn't take care of the red-eyed Angela with aspiration quickly enough. And by the looks of things, it would be enough. Iori, you might be one crazy, but you clearly saw this coming, so who could argue with the results? She knew that Angela would do this, which is why she fought a battle she knew she couldn't win.